What is good, Tsla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall market, what you should be watching for moving forward. I'm also going to talk about why tomorrow is going to be a very important day as we have Jerome Powell giving a speech at Jackson Hole. And I'm going to break down how this can affect Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and many tickers out there. I'm also going to talk about some big news involving Tesla that just came out and also what's going on with the data affecting the company. But before I break anything down about all this information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I'm firstly not a financial planner, so take none of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo, the link down below, and deposit $100 into the account, you're guaranteed 5 free stocks plus a $50 cash reward. The offer ends in just 7 days, so check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. All right, guys, looking at the market right now, I want to remind everyone that we have something very big coming out for tomorrow. In the morning, basically, for the first 30 minutes, we may see some volatility as we have the Michigan 5-year inflationary expectations report, the consumer sentiment report, and all this data about consumer expectations on inflation and how they're feeling right now. This is going to be at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, 30 minutes after the market opens. The stat is dropping. So there could be some volatility because of it, but it's not going to be the bigger move or the bigger like catalyst to affect the market for tomorrow. Then after this data comes out at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern time, we have something else happening. That's going to be Jerome Powell's speech, which is going to be at 10:05 a.m. Eastern time, 5 minutes after all this other data comes out. We're 35 minutes after the market opens. So at 10:05 a.m. Eastern time or New York time, Jerome Powell is going to be speaking at Jackson Hole. It's going to be pretty early, so we're going to see some crazy volatility because of this. Now, one thing worth remembering or mentioning is that the last time Powell spoke at Jackson Hole last year, the market got a rug pull. The market came down pretty hard, but that was because of the fact that inflation was very hot and the Fed was forced to be more hawkish. So, with that said, I mean, the market was pumping very hard, right? Approaching the last Jackson Hole in 2022 during the August rally. And then Jerome Powell came in and he was being very aggressive, very, very aggressive, very, very hawkish. One of the most hawkish moments we've ever seen Jerome Powell in. And that caused the market to come down pretty hard. So this time around, will Jerome Powell be hawkish or will he be dovish? We are going to find out tomorrow. Just to be clear, if he talks about like all this unemployment data, if he talks about the current wages, if he talks about CPI on the core side or like PCE on the core side, core inflation or anything like that, he could be more hawkish, right? He has an incentive to be more hawkish. He could talk about another rate hike on the table. He may even talk about when the Fed plans on cutting rates. If he says something like they don't plan on cutting for another like 2 years or a year and a half, just hypothetically, that could also be bearish for the markets. So you have to be prepared for that. If the guy comes out and says something like there's still signs of disinflation, progress is being made, the Fed is in the final stages of their rate hikes, that could also cause the market to bounce. So you never know what's going to happen. You want to be as open-minded as possible. During these Jackson Hole events, Jerome Powell is going to be around many different economists, many different reporters, and he's going to be speaking about the current state of the Fed's policies. That's going to be important. And this is what tends to happen. So make sure you're ready for this. Get ready for some crazy volatility. And I honestly can't really predict how this is going to go, to be honest with all of you. I'm not a fortune teller. I don't know what he's going to say. So you have to be prepared for this and you have to manage risks as you get ready for this big event, which is going to once again happen at 10:05 a.m. Eastern time tomorrow, 35 minutes after the market opens, basically. Now, when it comes to Tesla, we had some new news that came out. The US's NHTSA may resolve the autopilot probe that came out not too long ago. This may cause a move for Tesla if they make an announcement tomorrow morning or not. So we'll have to wait and see on this. But if there's any announcement in favor of Tesla, this could help it jump a little bit. If not, if they announce that they want to like continue to investigate, things are not looking good for Tesla, and they make any like big announcements about it, we'll have to wait and see what happens with this because there have been a lot of cases basically opened on the autopilot for Tesla. They've been investigating it for quite a while. We're going to find out how this affects Tesla. So it's going to be important. Just keep this on your radar in case anything happens tomorrow or later on. This could cause some volatility too. And as far as Tesla goes, there's this news coming out that Tesla has not issued the final prices for basically the Cybertruck or any like specific specs about it. Now, I consider this kind of mixed news in a way because many people are still buying it anyways. It's going to be a hit. And I believe most consumers should end up liking it because of Tesla's history and because Tesla has a very big fan base. So I don't consider this like bad news in a way, but it's also not great that they don't have like the final pricing and all that just yet. So kind of mixed in a way, but it's at the same time not too bad because Elon Musk is still continuing to be very engaged in the Cybertruck. He said he's going to drive around in one very, very soon, and he's very excited about it. He said it's going to be Tesla's best product ever. And if that's the case, once again, I have my trust in Elon Musk. I think it's going to be a hit for the company. I think it's going to bring in lots of revenue. So it's still bullish news nonetheless, despite this news. And I really hope that very soon they give us some more details about the specs, the pricing, and all these different things that are official and final. So we'll wait for that for the time being. But this isn't really like major news for Tesla, at least so far. Now, for volume, it was basically 99 million, very flat volume, just average for Tesla. Tesla performed very similar to what we saw a couple of days ago and managed to close above 230, which is a decent sign. It is below it during the after hours, though, and we will talk more about that in just a few minutes. The short volume went down just a tiny bit, so nothing too crazy is going on from there. And then all these analysts are saying Tesla will perform equally with the markets. The price price ratio is kind of flat right now, as Tesla's performing very similar to the market so far. And then from a seasonality basis, none of this data matters because it all depends on Powell, whatever Jerome Powell tries to say. Historically, we tend to be more volatile, during the third and the sixth hours of the trading day. So we'll have to wait and see if that, causes anything. But besides that, I'm not really seeing anything too significant in the data. There's a little bit more shorting going on with Tesla, with 41 million Tesla shares shorted just yesterday alone. So there's a possibility this could affect Tesla to some extent. But for now, I mean, the biggest thing is going to be Jerome Powell and what he ends up saying. Now, I want to say something, and I want to be as honest as possible. Okay, from a technical standpoint, even though technicals are just half of the picture for tomorrow, they're not everything. But from a technical standpoint, let me just mention that SPY, Tesla, Apple, the QQQ, and all these different stocks look a little bit more bearish, in my opinion. We're about to get bearish crosses on the PPOs, and the market is looking a lot weaker after this very, very big drop. Now, yes, we are very oversold, so we should see like a gap up possibly for tomorrow. But then as we approach Jerome Powell's speech, we might see the market start to sink a bit as the market seems very apprehensive, very nervous approaching Powell's speech. And then after the guy starts speaking, who knows what's going to happen? He could pump the markets or he could dump them. We'll just have to wait and see. But based off technicals, things are not looking the best for the bulls, in my opinion. So looking at Tesla, we formed a bearish divergence today, getting this double top like formation, and it's almost looking like an M like pattern. I'm sure you guys have seen this before when looking at charts. It looks more bearish, in my opinion. It looks a little bit more bearish from a technical standpoint, but just to be open minded, let me just go over something important. So, tomorrow, based off TA, we could see a gap up. We might see a gap up tomorrow in the markets, which could push Tesla up to like the 233 area or something like that. The news is another factor, but I'm not sure about any news coming out for tomorrow. It hasn't really come out yet, but the odds do favor Tesla kind of like gapping up just a little bit, trying to pop a little bit tomorrow morning. And then right before, the time comes for Jerome Powell to be speaking, we might see Tesla start to sell off a little bit with the market, and we're going to be watching 230 very carefully. Then after that, okay, when Powell gives his speech, wherever we are, whether we're at 230 or lower, I don't know exactly where we're going to be. If Powell pumps the markets, if the guy does something unexpected, he actually ends up being dovish and the market bounces, you're going to be watching 234 to 235 as resistance on Tesla. And above that, we have 238. That's where we have this imbalance, followed by the 240 area, which could be tested if Powell gives us a very nice pump. If Powell is hawkish, if the guy talks about how inflation is too hot and this and that, and the Fed has to give us another rate hike, or if he says something about how the Fed is not going to cut for a long time, we could see Tesla, and we're most likely going to see Tesla come all the way down to 225 to 226. If that breaks, 221 is coming, and we have to hold 221. If it fails to hold this 221 area, we're going to fill the gap all the way down to 215, and Tesla's going to get a big rug pull. Okay? I want to be honest with you, that is what is very possible because of Jerome Powell. So you have to be prepared for some crazy volatility. Now, what is the most likely move based off technical analysis? Based off TA and based off the chart, we look more bearish, forming the bearish divergence, coming down like this. We're also below 230 during the after hours. So it looks more bearish, and it looks like the odds favor 225 to 226 being tested, if not 221 very, very soon. Now, I just want to be open minded because I don't know for sure. Even though TA is suggesting Powell may be hawkish, we don't know for sure until it actually happens. So you want to be open minded just to be safe. For Nvidia stock, let me just mention the same thing is basically going on. It should bounce and maybe try to get like a little rebound in the morning, retest like 470, if not 475, and make it a rejection, and then it's going to slow down when Powell starts speaking. If Powell pumps it, this thing could go all the way back up above 483 and start pushing for like 490. If Powell causes the rug pull, Nvidia is going to come all the way down, most likely to like 455 to 456 to 452, basically this range down here. If Powell causes a big rug pull, it could even drop lower than that to this like imbalance down here around 446. So I'm not really sure which way it's going to go when Powell speaks. You want to be open-minded. You want to be very careful when trying to trade. I'm not trying to like disencourage you from trading at all in any way, shape, or form. I'm simply trying to let you know what the risk is, because when Powell speaks, excuse me, you never know what he's going to be saying, and you want to be open-minded anyways. But the odds do favor, more downside for the market, just to be honest with you, based off TA. Not a guarantee though. It all depends on Powell. If Powell ends up pumping SPY, right, this thing could gap up, then drop approaching his speech. If Powell pumps us, we're going to be watching SPY break 438, then 440. If Powell causes the rug pull, SPY is going to come all the way down to just under 435 for this support. And if that fails us, I don't think it's going to stop at 433. I think 431.5 could be tested, and we'll see if any divergences form or not. But 431 could come if Powell gives us a big rug pull. Now, what seems more likely from a technical standpoint? We look more bearish. The gap up, the drop approaching his speech, but a little bit more downside based off this overall trend. It seems more probable that SPY is going to come down to at least 435, but just to be safe, you want to be open-minded. For the QQQ, same thing as SPY. It should gap up tomorrow morning, at least based off technicals. Trade a little sideways and then slow down when Powell's about to start speaking. If he pumps it, you're going to be watching it break 365 and potentially even like 368. And if he ends up dumping it, you're going to be watching it come all the way down below 360 to retest 357. And if 357 ends up failing, it could come all the way down to 355 or lower. So it's looking more bearish overall. Looks like it could like pop and start coming down to like 357 or lower. It does look more bearish, but just to be honest with you, let's wait for what Powell has to say. The odds do favor him causing more downside, but just to be safe, we want to watch his speech and listen to what he has to say. For Aapl stock, it's the same thing basically. Should gap up a little bit. Going to be watching to see if this thing can try to get above 178 if we are bullish after Powell. And if we're bearish, we're going to be watching it come all the way down to the tight resistance levels, all the way down to like around 174, if not 173.7. We have this unfilled gap down here around the 175 area. So the odds do favor a little bit more downside for Aapl. I think if anything, it may kind of like gap up, then react to Powell. The odds do favor Powell causing downside for Aapl, but just to be safe, we're going to be watching the chart just to be safe and listen to what he has to say. So anyways, like I was telling you guys, it's basically the same for most of the market. The market's moving in unison. We should see most stocks try to like gap up a little bit, and then they may see more downside as time goes on, approaching Jerome Powell's speech. And then if we do get these bearish crosses on the PPOs, the market could start sinking lower if Powell is more hawkish. If not, the complete opposite could happen. For Microsoft, okay, we could gap up to like 322. If Powell pumps us, we're going to be watching it break 324. If he causes the dump, we're going to be watching 315, then potentially even 311. What seems more probable right now, 315 to 311 looks more likely as we have a bearish cross on the 4-hour PPO. But just to be safe, we want to be open-minded and listen to what on earth Powell ends up saying. For AMD, if we're bullish, we want to see this thing break above 106. If we're bearish, we want to see it break below 98 to like 95 or so. This looks more bearish from a technical standpoint. It looks like it's going to break below 100, but just to be safe, we want to see what Powell says and listen to what Powell has to say. Of course, on the VIX, this thing looks like it's going to test this resistance right about here around the mid 17s. If that breaks and if it gets above like the 18 area, Powell could be causing the market to drop, and this could be pumping the VIX up. We're about to get a bullish cross on the 4 hours, so the VIX is looking a little bit more bullish. We have to see how it reacts to resistance as Powell's going to speak. What's not the best of signs for the market would be the fact that the dollar hit 104. If it breaks this, if it keeps going, that's going to be a bearish signal. For now, it's getting close to doing so, but we're not really confirming that. Then quickly for Coinbase, just to be clear, If we're bearish, watch 71, then 68 below that. If we're bullish, watch 75. What seems more likely? A gap up, sideways price action. Powell may cause this thing to dump all the way back down to about 71 as we're about to turn bearish on the PPO. But just to be safe, I always want to be open minded just to be safe because you never know what Powell could cause. For Google, if Powell pumps us, this thing can break above 132. If Powell causes the rug pull, watch 127. The odds do favor this thing coming down below the 130s based off the MACD, but just to be safe, we want to be open minded. Same thing with Amazon and Apple, basically, or I'm sorry, Amazon and Meta. If we're bearish, Amazon's going to sink below 131 and come down to like 129. If we're bullish, watch it try to make its way back up above 134. What looks more probable? The odds do favor downside. It looks like it's going to break below 130, at least from a technical standpoint, but it all depends on Powell. Same thing for Meta. Watch 285 as support. If that breaks, you're going to be watching Meta come all the way down to 281, then 274 below that. If it's bullish, you want to see it hold above 290. If that breaks, watch 293. So what seems more probable? It looks more bearish. Watch for a little pop and a big drop after that. And if it keeps dropping very hard, if 285 ends up breaking, we're going to likely see this thing hit the very low 280s, if not 274. So it seems more probable that Powell is going to cause downside, at least based off technical analysis as of right now. At the time I'm recording this, that's what the market is anticipating. The charts look like they're getting ready for a rug pull by Powell. That's what the market is starting to think as now. But is that a guarantee? The answer is no. It depends on what he's going to say during his speech. And I don't truly know what he's going to say. So the best thing to do is just to be very patient in the market like this. Don't risk way too much money during the time he's about to speak. You never know what he's going to cause. So be ready for that. And I think scalping could work very well, but holding anything through his entire speech could be very tricky. So I just want to warn you, it could be tricky. I'm not saying I'm trying to disencourage you. I'm just saying that it's risky, right? You have to be prepared for the risks and do what you have to do. Do what's best for your own lives and portfolios. And with that said, I thank every single one of you for listening. Tesla in the market to the moon because the long term is still very bright, despite the fact that we are looking a little bit more bearish from a technical standpoint. Get ready for Powell tomorrow, once again at 10:05 a.m. Eastern Time, or 35 minutes after the market opens. Powell is going to be opening his mouth. Be ready and do what you have to do, guys. I will see you guys tomorrow morning, very close to when Powell ends up speaking. Thank you and peace out.